Hello and welcome to Uncovering Real Estate, brought to you by the Brampton Real Estate Board. I'm your host, Sarabjit Rana, and it's great to be with you here for this show segment. We're talking today about investment commercial properties, and my guest in studio is Mike Collins, broker and ICI Executive Director from iPro Realty. Hello, Mike. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it very much. So we're going to get right to the show here. I want to talk to you about commercial real estate. How do you define it?
Well, basically, commercial real estate is any real estate that's used for business or for income production, sort of to generate an income, a return on investment. So anything other than that is considered residential.
Okay, and that's perfect. So anything that you don't live in with your family is...
Yeah, it's a spot for your business or something to make you some money.
Okay. And so what are some of the differences? Because part and parcel of this show is to be able to break all the terms down. Just make the layman understand what it is that we're talking about. And I too, I'm a layman, or a laywoman rather, in terms of wanting to understand the semantics behind all of this. So what are some of the differences between commercial real estate compared to residential real estate?
The first thing is that there's a lot less emotion involved in a purchase of a commercial property. I mean, you're not looking at it as a spot to raise your kids or to to have family and friends over. You're looking at it for a purpose. It's a purpose. So it's to operate your business, to make sure you get a good a good spot to do what you do for your business, or it's to make money. So it's more about the numbers than it is about the actual real estate itself. I mean, of course, you want good real estate, good solid buildings, but what you want to do is you want to make sure you've got the numbers that are right. So
that's important. A good return on investment.
Absolutely.
The right location, so to speak.
Yeah, more so for your for both actually, but especially for your business. You don't want to be in a good in a nice building that is detrimental to your business.
Okay, so let's say for instance, so home's all looked after, I got my property, everything's good, and now I've got some extra money, and I'm thinking, okay, you know what? It's time to invest in something commercial. Want to buy a piece of land or whatever it may be, a business or anything. So tell me about some of the terms that are associated with a leasing transaction.
Well, in a leasing transaction, you're going to have, there's a whole different types of things you can lease. You can lease retail, you can lease office, you can lease industrial buildings. So basically, in a house, square footage is the number one thing. But in a retail lease or in any kind of commercial lease, you're going to have net rent, and you're going to have additional rent or TMI. You're going to have things like
okay, let's break that down. Okay, right there. So net rent and gross rent. What are the differences between that?
Gross rent is everything. It's all the rent. But in commercial properties, unlike residential properties, you're going to find that the landlord doesn't pay for anything. So it's all on the sort of on the back of the tenant. So basically, what happens is the net rent is the profit or the money that the landlord makes. The additional rent pays for all the expenses. So in a commercial property, you can contract for net rent over a period of 4 or 5 years, and that is another difference between commercial properties. When you lease a commercial property, generally the term is like for 3, 5, 10 years. If you're going to rent a residential property, you're renting it for 1 year at a time. And every 1 year you renegotiate. So when you're doing it for 10 years out, what you want to do is you don't want to commit to you commit to the rent. Okay, this is my income stream, but I don't know what the taxes are going to be next year. I don't know what the cost of snow plowing is going to be next year, depending on inflation. So the net rent, the net part of it is the profit. You contract for that for the period of the term, but the rest of it, the additional rent, adjusts as the inflation takes it up. So every year that can go up, and those are actual costs. So you say, here's what my costs were, here's your proportionate share, and you're going to pay for it accordingly.
That's really interesting, because as someone who doesn't know anything about this, and I think the only way you would know about it is if you're carrying out a transaction, right? But it's important, and we talk about this with some of our other guests in the show as well, that a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Yes, always is.
Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And so if your aunt's, brother-in-law's, nephew's uncle tells you something, that perhaps you should do a little bit of homework, right?
Yes.
Prior to presuming that in fact that is the case?
Yes.
Yeah?
Well, in the province of Ontario, we're licensed to sell any kind of real estate in the province of Ontario.
Okay.
That doesn't it doesn't mean that can be a house or it can be the TD Centre in downtown Toronto.
Okay.
So you're technically licensed to do it. You're not necessarily qualified to do it.
And I'm really glad you brought up the difference.
Yes.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, obviously. So, you know, I mean, there's so many different nuances when you're buying and selling commercial real estate. You know, you've got environmental issues. You've got, you know, you've got financing is totally different. You've got zoning more to deal with. I mean, zoning in a house, in a residential house, you pretty well know you can use it as a house.
Yeah.
But a zoning for for an office building, for instance, I mean, you may say, well, that's an office building, but I can't. But you know, because there's not enough parking, you can't use it for a doctor's office.
Right.
It can only be an accountant's office or something that has less. So you need to know all of those things in order to make it make sure that your client is is well protected.
And I'm presuming that under that also comes comparables, like so comps. So you want to be able to get the right comp.
Yes.
For the value of what you're leasing to somebody or selling them in terms of a commercial property.
Yeah, that part is pretty much the same. I mean, you go out and you say, okay, well, this particular building has been leasing for this kind of money, and comparable buildings in the city or around in adjoining cities is this square footage rate. Therefore, this is what it would be. So the comparable price, I mean, we still do comparable market analysis for whether selling or for leasing, and it's so that part is pretty much the same.
Okay, so well, that's good to know, because we're going to go to break and then we're going to come back and chat some more about some other terms and get some lowdown on it, okay?
That's good.
Time to go get that snack. We'll be right back.